Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Facing the Pain. Tonight, we're going to preview UFC 209, Tyron Woodley, the Crybaby, against Stephen Thompson. I don't know if he's been nicknamed. With me, as always, my broadcast partner, Sam Mercady.
Why the Crybaby?
That's what Dana White called him. He called him a Crybaby.
What for? What did he do?
Because he complained that he wasn't getting fans, and he brought up. I think he actually brought up the whole Rashad Evans thing. He's like, I'm not getting fans because I'm a cocky black guy, and people don't like that. And Dana White said, no, people don't like you because you're a crybaby. You don't see Conor McGregor crying about these fights.
What? Wait. Okay, look, I love Conor McGregor as much as the next guy. Conor McGregor doesn't cry. Like, the guy holds out on press conference because he didn't want to do a press conference, so he basically went into protesting mode. The guy cried because they couldn't get him another belt, which, don't get me wrong, is absolutely fair. But Conor McGregor complains a lot. And he's entitled to it, but still, he complains a lot.
Dana's point was Conor McGregor, which is even kind of a dumber point, is that, Conor McGregor will fight anybody except for the top contenders, apparently.
Conor McGregor will fight anybody except featherweights and lightweights, and Conor McGregor isn't fighting anybody. Not because he's scared or anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, but he's not fighting, period.
Yeah. And then Tyron Woodley called Dana White the biggest drama queen ever, which is true.
Which is really true.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley, I never liked that guy, but he just won himself a fan.
Yeah, I tweeted that when I saw that he called Dana White the biggest drama queen ever.
He really is one of the biggest drama queens ever, though. Like,
seriously. And then Dana fired back with, "Dude, stop talking. Your last fight was a draw." By the rematch on Saturday.
Yeah, like, this guy sucks so bad. His last fight was a draw. Yeah, but by the way, you should pay money to see him fight this weekend.
Is Dana White the worst promoter ever? He does. It's
not in terms of success, but in terms of promotion, yes.
Well, it's not his
I'm
job.
Sure
it's not his job to promote the fight. I forgot.
It's the media's job.
That's right. I don't think he's a good promoter. Like,
no, he's a bad promoter. I'm not even saying bad in terms of he's a shady whatever, because promoters are shady. Like, Don King is probably even worse. So that's not what I'm talking about. Just like, as far as him actually knowing how to promote his own fighters, his own product, he is not good at that at all. I really think a lot of the UFC success, a lot of it is coincidental. Seriously.
And just the fighters knowing how to promote themselves.
Yeah, like when I say coincidental, like, the sport is really cool. They've had a lot of fighters at the right place at the right time. The fights are great for the most part. Like, MMA is a cool sport. You know what I mean? The UFC happened to be the biggest MMA promotion. They certainly, I'm not saying they did nothing right. Like, the Fertitta brothers deserve a lot of credit, But a lot of the stuff Dana White takes credit for, he deserves none, like The Ultimate Fighter. He was against The Ultimate Fighter. Remember, like, he even admitted to that. He's like, I was completely against the idea at first, like reality TV, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now he's seen as this genius. Everything you can think of, like having Chuck Liddell. Like, okay, Dana White, it's not like he told you anything about Chuck Liddell that made people go like, oh, maybe you want to see that guy. He just saw that he had somebody on his. I mean, in fairness, they were friends, but a fighter with the right look who was knocking people out, and fans were warming up to, and they were like, all right, well, we're gonna just push him, basically, to use a pro wrestling term. We've talked about this before. Yeah. Every UFC star ever.
Has Dana actually promoted someone?
Anderson Silva. I've said that before. I'll stick with that. Before the whole pound-for-pound thing became really watered down, where every week a different fighter was the pound-for-pound king, from Aldo to Demetrius Johnson to John Jones to Ronda Rousey. When those guys were champs, seriously, whenever they were fighting, they would call every one of them the pound-for-pound king at the same time. Even, dude, what was the name? Henan Barao, remember? Yeah. They even called Henan Barao. So before that whole concept was watered down, Dana White started shoving down everybody's throats that Anderson Silva was the pound-for-pound king. And that happened at a time where, for years, the pound-for-pound king in MMA was just Fedor. Like, there's nobody else to even contend. It was just like Fedor. And I remember at the time, Fedor fans were livid, like, oh, what a joke. How can anybody call Anderson Silva the pound-for-pound king, whatever. And Dana White kept repeating that over and over and over. And Anderson wasn't drawing at first. And the UFC stuck with him. So I will say that's the one guy. I'm not saying the description I just gave is completely accurate, or it tells the whole story, or factors in everything that went on. I probably would enjoy researching that and seeing like what was happening at the time and stuff. But I would say they did a good job with Anderson Silva overall. Because Anderson Silva was as good as he is, he was not an obvious draw. In fact, he wasn't drawing well initially. So I would say him. That's my answer to your question. But him alone, like seriously, I can't think of anybody else.
His only promotion tactic is to call someone the pound-for-pound king, though.
Yep.
And Anderson just happened to be the first guy he bestowed that honor on.
He happened to be the first guy, so the concept was novel, and he happened to back it up. That's the other difference. Like, he not just back it up, but back it up in a really flashy way. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, this guy just wins, like Demetrius Johnson. Like, Demetrius Johnson backs it up. I mean, he's probably not the pound-for-pound king, but he backs it up. But Demetrius Johnson's not Anderson Silva.
You're either the pound-for-pound king or you come to fight.
Yeah, you're not like you come to fight. You're exciting, and the whole "you're exciting" thing, like. The problem is there's a complete lack of creativity in promoting anything. And promoting is not just about promoting fighters and making them marketable, but it's also about promoting fights. And other than this fight will be exciting, why does Dana White tell you to buy a fight? Like, what's his selling point?
I don't know.
Exactly. There isn't one.
I thought you actually had one. I was very curious to hear your answer.
A follow-up, and no, I don't have one either. And if anybody's listening to this even thinks about saying Ronda Rousey is a star the UFC created, Ronda Rousey, no. She came in with huge fanfare because people cared about her when she was in Strikeforce. Granted, obviously not to that same extent due to differences in medium and platform. But Ronda Rousey, everybody, like a lot of people knew, soccer moms knew who Ronda Rousey was before she even fought. So, yeah.
And it's not only the fact that he doesn't know how to promote these people, it's the fact that he de-promotes them.
That is a great point. He does a better job at burying his fighters, a way better job at burying his fighters than he does at promoting them.
Like, every time he says, like, this guy pulled out of a fight, he's a pussy, we offered it to him, but he turned it down. I don't like, what is the end game when you say something
why do you
like
even
that?
Share that with the media? Like, I understand if you want to say, like, oh, a lot of fighters turned this guy down to sort of, like, inflate this guy's reputation.
Right, yeah.
Like, oh, nobody wants any part of him. That I can understand. But when you single out fighters and bury them for it, like, why do you do that? Especially because a lot of times they have valid excuses for turning a fight down. It's not some no-no to turn a fight down. And this is even made even worse in light of all the stories you've heard fighters tell about Joe Silva after he left, where he threatened them if they don't take a fight, like basically by burying them and not giving them another one. Like, fighters have come out and said that they've had to take a fight while injured because Joe Silva threatened them. So that's a UFC tactic 101. And if you don't take the fight, you get buried. So think about it. What a garbage-ass promotion. Why are we even talking about this?
Because this is what we chose to podcast about. So you want to switch what we podcast about?
No, I'm just thinking, like, we were supposed to preview an event. Like, how did it come about to where we're burying the UFC for? Tyron Woodley, Crybaby, Dana White, Drama Queen. Yeah, good point.
Because
so it's not that irrelevant.
No, we're previewing an event that featuring a fighter that Dana White has depromoted over the past week. I'm actually just shocked
we managed to stick on the topic somehow. Like, this is actually relevant for this event. I just thought we went on our usual tangents.
Tyron Woodley against Stephen Thompson. Their first fight was great.
Their first fight was great.
Yeah.
Who else was that the Conor card?
Yeah, that was the Conor card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really surprised with Woodley's striking. I think I said in the preview of the first fight that...
You said Stephen Thompson was going to make him look... what was the word?
I think it was silly. Might have been silly.
You said make him look silly.
Well, I was wrong. Tyron Woodley, he closes the distance so well, and I didn't think I knew he had that explosive first step. I honestly didn't think that it would have mattered against Stephen Thompson. I thought Stephen Thompson was better at keeping his distance and recognizing the distance more than he showed in this fight. So maybe not maybe. I mean, I clearly
overestimated Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, I overestimated how good Stephen Thompson actually is. Woodley obviously has his wrestling to fall back on. I mean, he took down Thompson multiple times in that fight. In fairness to Thompson, I mean, it was a draw for a reason. It's not like he got completely blown out in that fight. He did have his moments where he made Woodley look silly on the feet. I think Stephen Thompson wins.
Are you really sticking with that?
Yes. I don't think he makes him look silly. I think he wins this fight.
I know. I should have rewatched that fight before doing this
that would
podcast.
imply
In my defense, I had a very valid excuse for not rewatching that fight, which you're about to share.
I don't know what the valid excuse is.
I didn't know they were fighting this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
in
that's
fact, seconds before we started recording, what did I ask you?
Oh yeah, what are we doing on this podcast?
Yep, and then I said, you know what, don't tell me. Surprise me. So when you said Stephen Thompson and Tyron Woodley...
I meant to actually text you over the past couple of days and be like, rewatch Woodley and Thompson 1, but I didn't even do it, so I couldn't make you do it too. I meant to, but I was really busy.
Talk and break the fight down.
I was really busy too. I don't actually have a good excuse.
Regardless, I'll say this in general. I remember when we broke down and previewed their first fight, we were a bit harsh on Tyron Woodley. Not just in terms of, Stephen Thompson is going to make him look silly, but in terms of Tyron Woodley's ability as a fighter in general. And in fairness, it's not completely unwarranted because he's never looked, let's say, the most convincing fighter in the world. I don't think that's unfair to say. Like
he's always looked good in that first minute.
Right. And his cardio is always suspect. It doesn't help that he's not really a spectacular fighter. And I don't mean... That's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. Like, the former welterweight kingpin for the longest time, was not a spectacular fighter when he held the title for long. Oh, we need to talk about that in a bit.
I'm very excited.
But the problem is with Woodley, he tends to look underwhelming. That's the other difference. It's like St-Pierre, for instance, or other fighters are quote unquote boring in the eyes of many. They can at least be dominant. Tyron Woodley, even when he did become champ, nobody ever thought like, oh yeah, this guy is clearly the best in his division. You know what I mean? So as a result, I think he's gotten either an unfair rap or maybe he's just gotten better. Regardless, what he does well is fighting on the inside. Like, you're right, he does close the distance well. But more than that, once he's on the inside, his striking from close range is really good. He can hurt you, and once he's in that range, like his short hooks, his short uppercuts, and he's also like, he covers it well. The moment he's definitely improved, because I never remember him doing that before, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But he's definitely improved, in my opinion, at actually just getting to his comfort zone, in that range where he excels. I thought he never did that in the past. He never did that effectively, and that always limited him. And that's a problem for a lot of MMA fighters, where you feel like, okay, this fighter clearly excels at doing this one thing, except he can't get there. Distance is a major problem for all MMA fighters. I think I've exhausted this topic before, but it definitely is a problem for even elite MMA fighters. And that's why oftentimes the guys who can control the distance well are almost always among the elite, the guys that understand it well. So Tyron Woodley, he's definitely he's not the most dynamic fighter. He's not even the more dynamic fighter in this fight. That's why I sort of, in a 25-minute fight, rather, I would typically, especially when two guys are evenly matched and one of them is not necessarily a terrible matchup for the other, I would typically favor the more dynamic fighter. That's why I think even I picked Stephen Thompson the first time around. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I went with Thompson. And because even though Woodley hits hard, and he does hit hard, and even though he can finish your night at any point, just in terms of pure power, he's not necessarily capable of putting it together like that. Like, if he connects with a great punch, fine, maybe he'll end your night. But the chances of him doing that, just catching you clean over and over to where, like, okay, you're just, at some point he's going to finish you, that's not necessarily his thing. Stephen Thompson, on the other hand, he can do that. I do think he's the better striker. He's definitely the more diverse striker. He fights better from the outside. Like you, I was a bit disappointed in the fact that he wasn't able to keep Woodley at bay as much as he should have in that first fight. In fact, part of the reason why I think I favored Thompson was that I didn't think Woodley would be able to... Like, Woodley, even though his first step is explosive, he's not like this super power double guy. You know what I mean? Who's just going to, like, completely explode. He's not Josh Koscheck. Remember, like, Josh Koscheck in his prime, or even Chael Sonnen, like, they had a dynamite power double. He's not quite that. And I figured Stephen Thompson will be able to capitalize on that. I still sort of like Stephen Thompson to do that, though, this time around. Maybe I'm still selling Woodley short, and he'll prove me wrong again, which, in light of what he said about Dana White, I'm actually hoping for that, because Dana White's just going to be pissed, and, you know, that's good for everybody. But I think Thompson actually wins the closest. I definitely see it being a close decision again, for sure. Woodley's weird, where he can, like, suddenly explode with power like he did on Robbie Lawler, but he's way more prone to having these weird weird decisions. What was that like really unimpressive slip decision he had once? Was it the gas?
Yeah, that got him a title shot.
He had the win over Kelvin Gastelum got him a title shot. So he fought Lawler immediately after that.
He fought Lawler a year and a half after that. He was supposed to fight Johnny Hendricks, and Hendricks missed weight, and Woodley didn't take the fight, and then he just sat around and he got a title shot. This is
the smart thing.
Yeah, this is why it's easy to be unimpressed with Tyron Woodley prior to UFC 205. He looked good at UFC 205. We have to give him credit there, but he got a title shot based on a guy missing weight, and
sitting around.
Yeah, and Gastelum didn't even make weight for that fight that he won, and he didn't look good.
That.
Yeah, he didn't look good in that fight. Hendricks didn't make weight, so he didn't even take that fight. He knocked out Robbie Lawler in 2 minutes, but that's never been his issue. Is that explosive, first couple of minutes? If you look at any of his knockout wins, they're all in the first couple of minutes. Otherwise, it's literally all just decision victories where he doesn't look all that good.
Or Carlos Condit injuring his knee.
Yeah, that's true. So he did look good against Stephen Thompson. I know he caught him and he hurt Thompson in one of the first couple of rounds, and maybe that affected. I'm sure that affected how Thompson fought the rest of the fight. I think Thompson wins this fight. I think it's a close decision. I think it's probably 48-47 or 49. 46, but the rounds are, some of the rounds are close there.
Yeah, I'm going with a close decision. I'm going 48-47, Thompson.
And then the winner will fight, who the fuck knows?
Georges St-Pierre after he loses to Michael Bisping.
Or Conor McGregor.
Why not?
In a lightweight fight for I'm pretty sure the interim lightweight title is on the line in this fight. Because
there's an interim lightweight title?
Oh yeah, of course there is, dude. This is the UFC where everybody gets an interim title. It doesn't say it's for the interim title on Wikipedia, so I'm going to the actual UFC event page to see if it's for the interim lightweight title. Because I feel like it is. Yep, interim lightweight title. Can you guess who is fighting for the interim lightweight title?
Oh, it's weird because it should be Khabib and Tony Ferguson.
Correct.
But, that's the fight?
That's the fight. It's a good fight. It shouldn't be for a fucking interim lightweight title.
That's a very good fight. Fuck the interim title, but that is a very good fight.
Your uncle will not be able to corner Khabib due to the American ban that didn't allow him in the country. I hope
did he have issues with his visa? Was he banned? What happened? Why couldn't he get access?
It was just a travel ban. I don't know the actual story. I just saw the headline.
Dana White should have called his friend Donald Trump.
I don't think Dana White cares enough about Khabib's father.
You are really underestimating Dana's humane
Am I?
sentiment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so even though Khabib won't have his father in his corner, this is a great fight. Khabib's wrestling and grappling is really on another level from, I would say, anybody in the division. Is there anyone else in this division that...
Better wrestler than Khabib?
Yeah.
No. I can't think of somebody, honestly. And even if there is somebody with better credentials, which right now off the top of my head I can't think of anybody even close, definitely not anybody who can put it that way together that way in MMA.
Khabib's one downfall seems to be his striking. Everybody is going to point to Michael Johnson kind of tagging him on the feet in the last fight and causing him to slip up a little bit. He's hittable, but no one's really... You've got to hit the guy. Like, you've got to stop that takedown in order to hit him, and no one has been able to stop that takedown. I'm willing to kind of write off that punch as... I mean, he got hit, you know? People are going to get hit. I don't think it's necessarily an indictment of his chin, or that Tony Ferguson, the second he cracks him, he's going to knock him out.
I think Khabib's strategy is interesting. Typically, it's double-edged in the sense that you can get away with it a lot, but there's going to be that one time you don't get away with it, and if your chin gets cracked, and over time it becomes harder and harder. For now, it's working. I think Khabib just understands his striking limitations and is willing to just close the distance a bit, I don't want to say wildly, but a bit, let's say, in an uneducated manner, in knowing that he'll absorb some shots on his way in, but he'll take him and take you down. And once he has you down, he's basically won the round. And as good as Tony Ferguson's footwork is, and as good as his striking is, unless he really hurts Khabib every time he comes in, and that requires a lot of precision, timing, and technique. Tony Ferguson, in his defense, he has a lot of that. Like, I think people have likened him to Dominic Cruz a lot. That used to be the comparison, right?
Yeah.
I think his striking's actually...
He hits harder than Dominic Cruz. Yeah, it's definitely...
His technique is better. It's not quite as weird.
Yeah, it's definitely... I mean, he throws more weird stuff. His actual movement is less weird. Yeah.
It doesn't look as awkward when he's moving. I don't necessarily mean awkward in a bad way. It's just, Dominic Cruz made it work for him for the most part. But I think he definitely has power. But to me, I've never seen Khabib's chin be an issue, ever. So you really got to tag him and make it count. And I do. This is why I love this fight. There's a legitimate, as good as Khabib is, and he is a problem for everybody. If Tony Ferguson cracks him in the chin a couple of times, rocks him and finishes him, I wouldn't say I wouldn't bat an eye, but I would say it wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world. In fact, when we were discussing a Conor versus Khabib matchup after Conor beat Eddie Alvarez, it was the whole thing was a clash of styles. And Khabib, even though he's on paper, honestly, a terrible matchup for Conor, if he actually gets a hold of him, Conor is somebody with the timing, technique, and power where, okay, if he hits him on his way in, when that guy touches you once, he makes it count. Tony Ferguson is not quite that. But he has some of that ability. It's since it's an interim title fight, I'm guessing that's a 25-rounder.
That's the second time you've said
it's not a 25-rounder. Jesus, a 25-rounder.
I would like to see 25-round MMA fights.
It's a title fight, so it's a 25-minute fight.
Who would be the best 25-round fighter? I feel like the Diaz brothers would be really good.
Diaz brothers would be really good at 25 rounds. Georges St-Pierre in his prime would be very good at 25 rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, he had good cardio and he'll control you for the majority. Cain Velasquez would probably not lose a fight at heavyweight. I mean, he would never fight, but if he fights, he probably, unless he gets finished early, I don't see how. Heavyweights would probably just retire if fighting for the title.
I mean, unless he gets clipped early or has to fight at altitude.
Yeah, but that's how he typically loses anyway. So 25 rounds or not wouldn't make a big difference. I think Demetrius Johnson would be good at 25 rounds.
Yeah, Demetrius Johnson would be really good.
Ronda Rousey. I don't know why. Just Ronda Rousey. 25 rounds of Edmund. That's something.
I don't think people are going 25 rounds with Ronda Rousey.
That is true. What was I talking about before our wacky idea?
How good Tony Ferguson is in 25-round fights.
No, I just said it's a 25-minute fight. He is the more dynamic fighter. However, I do think, and I don't know much about Khabib's cardio over time. Remind me again, does he tend to slow down? I don't think he does.
Khabib, no. He
doesn't slow down.
He doesn't slow down. It's more of he just breaks people. Like the Michael Johnson fight,
that was when he started telling him give up.
Yeah, he was clearly slowing down from the first round to the third, but he had just destroyed Michael Johnson to that point.
That is the thing. He's not. A lot of wrestlers slow down, and so the longer a fight goes, you'd favor the more dynamic fighter will start stuffing their takedowns and finishing them. The thing with Khabib though is he's not just taking you down for those first 2 to 3 rounds. He's beating the shit out of you. So you're more tired, you're more beat up, and he's more in control and he's more confident. You're broken completely. And that is why I favor him in this fight, because Tony Ferguson's window is going to be pretty narrow every round. He's great. His striking is really, really good. And if he finds Khabib's chin, I mean, who knows? Maybe he finishes him. But if Khabib takes him down and starts beating him up, let's say in the first and second round, the fight is practically over.
Yeah.
At least in theory.
Yeah. Just that Michael Johnson fight. Michael Johnson was just on his way to his feet. I'm pretty sure this was in the third round. It may have even been in the second. And Khabib just literally shoved him back down. Just to get shoved down, not even taken down, just shoved with 2 hands back down to the ground.
A big athletic dude. He's not.
I mean, with a wrestling background and everything. He's not a pushover or anything. And Khabib literally pushed him over. So that, just the way Khabib.
His top game is scary.
Yeah. I mean, just the way he beats on you. Just the way he beats on you, even after the first round. If he lands that first takedown, he's not a guy who just lays there on top of you and controls you. He beats the shit out of you when he's on top of you. And he makes you work you either lay there and you get beat up, or you try to get back up and he just keeps you down and just grapples you. It's not only his wrestling that's outstanding, just his grappling and his chain wrestling is so good.
That's chain wrestling is sort of what it, he's so good at stifling scrambles. That's one thing about him. You work so hard to try to get back to your feet, and you're trying to initiate a scramble, and then you basically maybe think that you're making some progress in terms of getting back up, and he'll just shove you down again. So you've expended all that energy for nothing. He's really good at not giving you any opportunities to sort of have any sort of almost quote unquote counterplay from the bottom. There's not much for you to do.
Even if you do get up, you can never break his grip really. And so you may get to your feet, but he still got you locked around the waist, and then he just, puts you right back down on your back or your side.
It is like wrestling a bear, honestly. Well, not quite. I would imagine wrestling a bear is worse, but,
Yeah, once he gets a hold of you in the round, you're really screwed for that entire round. And I think that's what he does to Tony Ferguson. It almost feels like it could be a repeat of Czech Congo and Cain Velasquez. That's what I kind of like in this fight too. And Tony Ferguson is a much better fighter than Czech Congo. But
Ferguson should kick Khabib in the dick.
He should, actually. We've talked about fouls.
Czech Congo didn't do that against Cain. I don't remember him actually kneeing Cain in the balls. Maybe that's why he lost that fight.
It wouldn't be a bad strategy for Tony Ferguson. It would slow him down. I mean, we've talked about it. Like, fighters don't have anything to lose when they do this stuff, you know?
Plus, it's a 25-minute fight. Like, it's a 5-round fight. If let's say he does take a point away from you, it's fine. It's still, it's still manageable.
Yeah, you can still hopefully get that knockout at a later time, but
yeah, like that Brock Lesnar thing you talked about, Lesnar versus Angle Iron Man match.
Yeah. I don't want to give this idea to Tony Ferguson because I want Khabib to win and your family to be
I
happy.
think Khabib will win. Khabib will win. He'll be fine. My mom took care of the cooking. We had one big family lunch the other day. I should have mentioned this on the podcast. I don't want to give away secrets of the trade leading up to the fight. But, yeah, he seemed to be in good spirits.
I think Khabib wins this fight late. I think he finishes Ferguson late.
I can really see an image of Ferguson being like bloody and beaten, and Khabib gets an underwhelming stoppage late. Not the kind of stoppage where like he's knocking him out, but like he's been beating on him for so long to where the ref's like, okay, well that's enough.
Yeah, I think he finishes him late third or fourth round. And it might be he's just beating the shit out of him until the ref stops it. It might be he just submits him. Like Ferguson just gives up his back and just gets submitted.
Yeah, as an overall, you're right about one thing. Habib is beyond just a wrestler. He's a great sort of just overall grappler, MMA grappler, really, with an insanely good wrestling base, obviously. But he understands the top game. He's really, really good. I think a lot of the really great wrestlers, they really know how to nullify all your abilities from the bottom. Like they nullify scrambles, they nullify submission attempts. When they get on top of you, you can't do much. A lot of the really good wrestlers in MMA have always been great at doing that. Plus, you add an ability. Really, maybe the best ground and pound in the game right now. I mean, John Jones hasn't fought in forever, but I can't think of somebody else, to be honest. He's definitely up there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of somebody, and I don't know who it would be that just beats on you the way this guy does. And
he does it with so much volume too. It's quite impressive, actually. I'm trying to remember who he reminds me of. I've been trying to remember since I've talked about this fight, and I just can't. I feel like there's a very good analogy or a very good comparison to another fighter, but I can't think about it now for some reason. Anyway, regardless, I think Khabib wins this fight and becomes the UFC interim lightweight champion, which would make Tony Ferguson a former UFC interim lightweight contender.
There's an interim title 3 months after, maybe 4 months after they decided the actual title.
Right, and when the champion announced that he'll be back in the summer, which means he won't be out for a year. He won't even be out for a year, but whatever.
And
look, I'm honestly just happy this fight is 25 minutes. I mean, the interim title is dumb, but like, who cares at this point?
And when Conor and Mayweather fight, then Khabib will be upgraded to undisputed lightweight champion.
That's right, and Conor will become the boxing champion of the world. Not in any specific weight class, just a boxing champion of the world when he beats on Floyd Mayweather.
Conor is the Shawn Michaels of MMA.
Why, did he just lose his smile? Did Shawn Michaels go and challenge anybody from another sport?
Yeah, he challenged Marines and he got his ass kicked.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, you don't remember that was the that wasn't the lose my smile. I said it because, Shawn Michaels lost titles without actually getting pinned. Like, he gave up the WWE title because he lost a smile. He gave up one Intercontinental title due to a steroid suspension. That's what led to the ladder match against Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 10.
Yeah.
And he gave up the other Intercontinental title because he challenged a bunch of Marines to a fight at the Syracuse bar, and he got his ass kicked.
Oh, I know that story.
Yeah.
He got beat the shit up. Dude, Kevin Nash has a shoot interview about that in which he even manages to make it sound like Sean didn't get beat up that badly. Kevin Nash can twist anything. Donald Trump should hire Kevin Nash, honestly. He can twist anything. The way he told that story, you wouldn't think Shawn Michaels got the ever-living shit out of him. Oh, okay, I know the story where he got beat up at a bar.
Yeah, he was the Intercontinental Champion, and he was supposed to wrestle. That was when he was supposed to wrestle Dean Douglas, and the rumor is, do what? Yeah, the franchise, and the rumor is they wanted to put the title on Douglas, and Michaels was too beat up from the Syracuse fight to compete, and so he just dropped the title to Shane Douglas, and then Razor Ramon beat him 10 minutes later.
Are you implying that Conor McGregor is going to get beat badly by Floyd Mayweather? Because you, sir, are wrong. Conor McGregor will give Floyd a boxing lesson. You'll see.
I'm implying that Conor McGregor loses titles without losing. He finds ways to just lose titles.
You know who's going to lose a title by losing? Floyd Mayweather. Once Conor gets done with him.
Which title will Floyd Mayweather be losing? Do you know which title he holds?
No, but I know which title he should be losing if he loses to Conor. The title of being a professional boxer. Because if you lose to fucking Conor McGregor in a professional boxing match, like, just retire. And which isn't even remotely possible because Floyd Mayweather wipes his boots with Conor McGregor in a boxing match. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter because that shit is never happening. So who cares?
Dana White said it's never happening, though, which makes me believe there's a chance.
Then it's definitely happening, and I care. Just completely changed my stance.
Rashad Evans faces Dan Kelly. I don't know who Dan Kelly is.
I was just about to ask, who the fuck's Dan Kelly?
I was honestly going to pick him. I was like, there's no way he loses to this version of Rashad Evans. But Dan Kelly is a 39-year-old.
So Rashad is the prospect in this fight.
He's an Olympic judoka. His best
How old
win.
is Rashad?
Dan Kelly's best win is over Chris Camozzi. I think Rashad wins this fight. Rashad's 37.
How old is Rashad now? 38, 37?
37, yeah.
Yeah, I think Rashad wins this fight. Come on.
Yeah, Rashad
Evans, I feel, is an underappreciated fighter overall throughout his career.
Yeah, throughout his career, definitely.
Now he's washed up. But throughout his career, he's always been underappreciated. Like, I mean, the hatred started early.
Because he was an athletic, cocky black man.
That's right, just like Tyron Woodley. Then him knocking out Chuck Liddell didn't win him many fans, and you were there to see that live.
Don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. Then he beat Forrest, who was everybody's favorite underdog story after he beat Rampage. People rooted for Rampage against Rashad, even though Rampage was the one acting like a total bitch leading up to that fight. Remember when he went to do the A-Team? I mean, that's not much of a problem that he went to do the A-Team. It's just the constant complaints and everything. God. And, I mean, according to you, he beat John Jones, but I won't even ask you to explain why again because I'll shoot myself and start doing that. So, yeah.
He threw, remember against Nogueira? He threw that different kind of jab.
Oh, shit, dude. The different kind of... Was that where he's just trying to, sort of that fake jab, just to control the distance that he does? What was the different kind of jab?
That's what it was. He was just that feeler jab, and Joe Rogan is that's a different kind of jab that Rashad Evans is throwing. It's
Who
not
won that
even.
fight? I feel like Nogueira won that fight.
Nogueira, that was a bad fight. Nogueira won, but yeah, that was a bad fight.
Yeah, I think Rashad wins this one.
I would think so. I mean, I don't know who Dan Kelly is. It feels like it's a gimme fight for Rashad.
It's an Olympic judoka. You know how well they do in the UFC. One Olympic judoka became the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world and the most dangerous hand-to-hand combatant in history.
That's right.
Maybe you need to change your mind. The guy is called Dan Kelly. It's the ultimate white guy generic name. No, he's probably not winning this fight. Unless Dan Kelly's black, then I take that back.
It feels like a fight they're just setting up for Rashad to win. Typically when you give... Rashad's you can call him a legend, I guess.
No.
I mean, in the sport of MMA where everybody's a legend, Rashad Evans is a legend.
He's one of the best like he's a great fighter in the history of the light heavyweight division. That's how I would call it. I wouldn't say he's a legend.
Is Rashad Evans, would he be a Hall of Famer by whatever standards there is?
Yeah. In any standards, Rashad Evans, by proper sports standards, Rashad Evans is a Hall of Famer.
Okay, so typically when you have these Hall of Famers at the end of their career, you give them another Hall of Famer, you give them a prospect that's going to murder them potentially, or you give them a guy that they can beat and feel good about. And Dan Kelly is a guy that he can beat and feel good about.
So do you think Rashad Evans is retiring after this fight? I think it's a possibility.
This fight's at middleweight. I don't even know why Rashad's fighting at middleweight.
He wants a crack at Georges St-Pierre after he beats Michael Bisping.
Maybe he just wants a crack at Michael Bisping because he has a win over Bisping.
Rematch 10 years in the making?
Yeah.
Has it been 10 years? I think it has been 10 years, actually.
I like this strategy, though, by these older fighters. Like, Michael Bisping is the champion, and...
It's like, okay, let's solve... Michael Bisping is going to have the best resume in history by having wins over legend after legend after legend, if Rashad's a legend, when they're all fucking washed up. What a man. If Michael Bisping continues to do that, honestly, I'll start liking him.
Let's say Michael Bisping beats... Well, we'll talk about it here in a second. We'll go next. But yeah, I think Rashad wins this fight. I don't want to say I'd be surprised if he loses, but I'd be pretty surprised if he loses.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses because he's old, and so is his opponent, but whatever. But I think he'll win comfortably.
Lando Venata takes on David Tamer.
What?
Lando Venata is the guy who hit the wheel kick at UFC 206 against John McDessie. He also had a great fight against Tony Ferguson that he took on short notice. He's a flashy striker. He's 24. Trains with Greg Jackson. I think he's solid. He should. It's a showcase fight for him against Tamer, and he probably kills him.
Is David's nickname the Lion?
I don't know because he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
He should. That should be his nickname, honestly.
It should be. I agree. Actually, his nickname should be like whoever he's fighting. Like it changes on a fight-to-fight basis.
Oh.
So if Lando Venata has a nickname, which I don't know if he does, and apparently Groovy, so he can be the Groovy Tamer.
What if he fights Tito Ortiz?
The Huntington Beach Bad Boy People's Champion Tamer.
Shit rolls off the tongue.
I was honestly trying to sneak another nickname in there, but I couldn't think of one for Tito.
Those are his two nicknames. Is there another one?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
And then heavyweight fight. You want to guess the heavyweight fight?
Is Ben Rothwell one of them?
Ben Rothwell is not one of them.
Then this fight is light. Hold on. Is any of the fighters supposedly a top 10 fighter in the division?
I mean, it's heavyweight. Isn't everybody a top 10 fighter in the division?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, Roy Nelson?
No. They're two well-known fighters. Like they're well-known and they're veterans. Verdun? No. They're veterans. They've been around for a while. I mean, Verdun fits that.
Junior Dos Santos?
No, he's actually fighting for the title next.
Oh. Been around. Andrei Arlovsky?
No.
No, didn't he lose recently?
Yeah.
Never mind. Let me think. Been around for a while. Heavyweight. Mark Hunt doesn't want to fight anybody.
That's incorrect.
Oh, so Mark Hunt?
Yes.
Mark Hunt is on this card?
Mark Hunt is on this card.
You told me Alistair Overeem?
Yes.
That's a great fight.
I know. It's a good fight. This is
a good card.
It's a good card.
Honestly, the top two fights are good.
The top two fights are good. I mean, you have your just fun heavyweight fights.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this fight, honestly. I know I like to pick on heavyweights, but I'm a fan of this fight.
Anytime you have 3 good fights on the main card, and I'm not saying Overeem and Hunt is good, but 3 fights where you can kind of look forward to, it's a good card.
Yeah, I look forward to this fight, honestly. My breakdown basically goes out like this. Whoever hits the other one first wins. No, honestly, look. In theory, Alistair Overeem should destroy Mark Hunt. Because Alistair Overeem has different weight. Like, Alistair Overeem, in terms of skill set to accomplishment ratio, is probably the biggest underachiever in history. Now, of course, there are other factors for that, mainly the fact that a lot of times he's just, like, inexplicably tentative, the fact that his chin sucks, the fact that strategically he's not that good. He doesn't throw with a lot of volume.
I mean, he should have won that heavyweight title in his last fight.
He should have won the heavyweight title in his last... What happened in his last fight?
Oh, dude, he had Miocic rocked early, and...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and then he went for that stupid guillotine.
Guillotine, right.
Yeah, and then he claimed that Miocic tapped out.
I remember that. The thing about Alistair Overeem is, honestly, in terms for a heavyweight, in terms of skill set for his striking, like his striking can be like something else. His body shots are insane. When he starts if he gets a tight one, like his knees to the body are one of MMA's all-time most devastating weapons. Like when he throws a knee to your body, you feel it watching. And due to the size, reach, everything advantage, you think like, okay, if he gets within close quarters to Mark Hunt, he should really, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to pile on him. On top of that, Alistair Overeem isn't exactly one-dimensional. He can take you down, and his stop game in terms of ground and pound and stuff is really good. Like if that guy gets side control again, you're getting meat in the body extensively. He offensively, when he puts it together, he can be really good, and of course he hits like a truck. The problem is he's hittable, despite his K1 accolades. He's hittable. His shin is not good, and when Mark Hunt hits anybody, they fall down regardless of your chin anyway. And Mark Hunt is more durable. And this is a heavyweight fight, which means that it's a coin flip, just like women fights, honestly. And Alistair Overeem is the fighter that's probably the least reliable to choose to win. Like every time you think, like remember the Antonio Silva fight?
Yeah.
That was great, by the way, but...
I think Mark Hunt knocks him out.
I'm actually going to pick Alistair Overeem. But
as you said... I don't trust Alistair Overeem.
Hold on, let me do this properly. Just wait 1 second.
You're gonna flip a coin?
That's right. You're gonna hear it.
All right.
Heads, I'm picking Overeem. Tails, I'm picking Hunt.
Okay.
Okay. And it's heads. I'm sticking to Overeem.
All right.
Legit. That's just what happened. I'm gonna start. That's the way I'm taking Hunt's fight from now on.
I like this segment where. You pick heavyweight and women's fights based on a legit coin flip.
I mean, that's how the Super Bowl was decided, so what's MMA to be any better?
I think Mark Hunt knocks him out. I don't trust Alistair Overeem's chin or strategy or anything.
Anything, right?
Like, it's Alistair Overeem. This guy is one of the biggest flakes in MMA history.
This is true. This is definitely true.
I mean, it's like him and Vitor, I think. And he has 2 wins over Vitor, so maybe it's Vitor.
Somehow I still think Vitor accomplished more, even though his title win is a complete fluke. At least he fluked it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either way, Overeem not someone who can be relied upon.
No, Overeem is, I mean, excuse the pun, Joe, but Alistair Overeem is overrated. Like, he definitely is overrated. But he should still be better than what he's actually managed to do.
He's a talented guy, but
yeah, exactly.
I mean that chin is just, and Mark Hunt hits really fucking hard.
That he does.
I'm going with Mark Hunt. On the undercard, there's nothing to talk about. so we're not going to talk about anything.
Awesome. Let's talk about something worth talking about. That's probably not really worth talking about, but let's talk about it.
The Bellator event on Friday night is headlined...
Oh, that's not what I was going for, but okay.
I actually don't know if there's a Bellator event on Friday night.
Oh, okay. I thought there actually was.
No, I mean, there is, but I know what you want to talk about, and I was trying to avoid it. But go ahead.
I mean, we talked about it last week when we weighed in on the different possibilities. Now we know who he's fighting. It's the worst possibility of them all, honestly. Like, I would have... My list of St-Pierre proposed fights that I wanted to see was, in that order, is like Anderson, Connor, welterweight title shot, anybody else, Michael Bisping.
Well, you got Michael Bisping. There's a great tweet by the UFC that just says, Bisping versus St-Pierre, give us your reaction in GIF form. And they tweet a GIF of, you know, like a kid super excited and then like fainting. And the replies to it are amazing.
But aren't you asking for it, though, when you tweet something like that? It's like the UFC say, all right, Twitter, troll the fuck out of us. Like, how can you, in GIF form? Like, seriously, you even gave them the medium. You gave them the loaded gun, and you were like, all right, target practice.
It's the replies, and there's like 500 replies behind you, and they are outstanding. And they retweeted 2 of the replies. They retweeted Carlton dancing and a guy acting really happy that he won on The Price is Right. I guess they couldn't retweet the other 498 because they're bad. It's funny though. Nobody is happy with this fight.
Nobody's happy
very
with this
few
fight.
Anyway.
Look, if St-Pierre wins, it'll be great. The problem is, St-Pierre's not winning.
When St-Pierre loses, Michael Bisping is officially the all-time GOAT.
Yeah, he'll have wins over Anderson Silva and Georges St-Pierre. Jesus Christ. You know what's kind of sad? It's not sad. Like, I understand why it's happening, but what's kind of like, it pisses me off. It's like the UFC realizes, like, okay, Michael Bisping isn't any good, even though he's the middleweight champion. So we're going to be really careful with who we match him up against. And when a guy is a champion, you typically, like, you know, like, it's hard to get easy fights when you're the champion. Yet this guy is. It's truly amazing.
He got the title shot based on a lucky win.
A really contested victory over Anderson Silva that many would debate should have been a knockout loss. Think about that. Honestly, he probably got knocked out but won the fight.
And then he stepped in short notice. And credit to him for knocking out.
The win over Luke Rockhold, there's nothing to say.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, he knocked out Luke Rockhold on short notice. Like that's a good victory.
But he should have never gotten the title shot to begin with. But
right.
That's different.
And his first offense was against a 46-year-old who just beat Hector Lombard. I'm not even sure if Henderson was ranked in the top 10 after he beat Hector Lombard. Either way.
Instead of fighting, not just that, dude, but not only is his next fight after that against a fighter who hasn't fought in like 4 years by the time they fight.
Against a fighter who's never fought at middleweight.
Never fought at middleweight because he always wanted to put the muscle the right way when it was supposed to be against Anderson Silva.
Well,
but now that it's against Michael Bisping.
He took 4 years off and he put the muscle on the right way.
Oh, right. Okay, so that makes perfect sense now. That last time was seen getting, I don't want to say beat up by Johnny Hendricks, but he didn't win that fight, honestly. Georges St-Pierre is my favorite fighter, but come on. And he absorbed more shots in his last 3 fights than he had in his entire title run, which is insane. And clearly his head wasn't right. and he's had 2 ACL tears since. He's 34, 35 years old. He's not nearly as athletic as he used to be, and a lot of his success was predicated on his athleticism. And he's fighting that guy, Michael Bisping, that is. Meanwhile, any top contender in his division would probably murder him. Like, Yoel Romero is one of the contenders. Like, he would kill... Jacare Souza would embarrass Michael Bisping. Let's be clear about that. So, the funny thing is, typically...
Let's look at who the top 5 middleweights are.
All right, do that before I talk about my next point, which is honestly all I'm going to say about this topic some more. You don't believe that, but I'll try to stay true to my word. But, yeah.
Number 5 is Gegard Mousasi.
He could legitimately have a good chance against Michael Bisping.
Number 4 is Chris Weidman.
I think he has a very good chance against Michael Bisping, too.
Jacare.
Of course.
Luke Rockhold.
He's already lost to Bisping, but I'd probably favor him in a rematch.
And Romero.
I would honestly pick all those guys against Michael Bisping.
Yeah, I would as well.
So, of course, which means he's fighting Georges St-Pierre.
Unranked Georges St-Pierre.
But he's the greatest welterweight of all time. That's a ranking that matters, which is why he's getting a middleweight title shot 4 years after the fact. Fantastic. Now, one last thing about this. You know what pisses me off the most? When St-Pierre versus Silva used to be a potential thing, which I still can't believe that's not the fight.
The iron is still not quite hot enough for that fight.
They're waiting for one of them to become champion. And then, ooh, dude. But seriously, shouldn't we all root for Georges St-Pierre to win the title? And then they give him Anderson for the title in 2017?
I still don't think that fight would happen. I don't care.
Georges St-Pierre would be like, I can't fight at middleweight. I didn't put on the muscle the right way. I need to drop the muscle immediately.
Yeah.
Georges St-Pierre ducked Anderson Silva his entire career. That is, I mean, again, even as a huge Georges St-Pierre fan, like, it was always obvious. He didn't want no part of Anderson. But I never actually bought that Anderson would just, like, murder touch him due to his size. Like, the reach would definitely be an issue, but, you know, due to the size, like, oh my God, no, St-Pierre can't compete at middleweight. And the example I always give it, and I know, like, you're going to be able to complete my sentence, like, can Georges St-Pierre really not move to middleweight and beat up Michael Bisping pretty easily? That's for some reason, Bisping was always the punchline of my analogy back when St-Pierre was the welterweight champion in his prime. I guess St-Pierre wants to prove that theory correct, except he's doing it way too late for that theory to be correct.
I don't care about this fight.
What if St-Pierre wins?
Great. Good for him.
Would he be the best ever?
Probably.
I would have to say yes, just because he's the middleweight champion. But I do find it ironic that he cemented his status as the best ever when he beat a 37-year-old Michael Bisping. But I mean, he would have to be the best ever.
I mean, I hope St-Pierre wins, because maybe it gets us one step closer to Silva and St-Pierre. Like, I don't care if it would be December 2017 by the time they fight. I'd still watch that fight.
Yeah, that's the one fight we all cared about.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about seeing St-Pierre against pretty much anybody. Conor, maybe. I would have been fine with a Conor fight.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been... The thing is, I don't see what this fight does. Like, people are going to say, like, oh, it's a draw. Like, it's a fight that draws. Like, Georges St-Pierre would draw against me in his return fight.
Right.
So, sure, it draws, but it's not drawing because it's against Michael Bisping or for the middleweight title. Like, it's drawing because it's Georges St-Pierre's return.
And it would draw just the same, if probably not more, if he were to fight Anderson Silva, and that fight has a much better story and it's a better fight.
Yeah.
It would draw a hell of a lot more against Conor McGregor. Like, that would shatter everything.
Yeah.
So the fact that it draws is not a good excuse. And other than that, I don't know what it accomplished. If Bisping wins, everybody's going to be like, oh, he beat a career welterweight fighting off a 4-year layoff. big deal.
And if Bisping wins, I wouldn't be surprised if he just retires. It's pretty obvious.
Piss people off so much, though.
I would love him if he retires, if he wins this fight. Like, it's pretty obvious he just wants to keep fighting these, he wants the biggest fights.
He is ducking everybody, and the UFC is helping him do it. Yeah. It's really that simple.
I mean, more power to him.
No, more power. That's smart. Honestly, look, Bisping was there in attendance when Yoel Romero ruined Chris Weidman. If you were Michael Bisping, would you want to fight that?
No. I'd much rather fight Georges St-Pierre, who's a much bigger name and coming off a 4-year layoff.
You're getting a bigger payday, and at worst, if he beats you, he takes you down repeatedly. So, which is, I don't even see that happening at this point. Like, the only semi-good story would be, honestly, St-Pierre winning would be like, okay, he's the greatest ever or whatever. But, I mean, some people argue already is. It doesn't accomplish much. It would just be, to be fair, it would be amazing that he's able to come off 4 years of retirement and win a fight at the highest level. Say what you want about Michael Bisping, worthy middleweight champ or not, but that's still that's still a big win to have after a 4-year layoff. It's just that does St-Pierre really need that to validate anything about him?
Yeah. It's.
But
and I worry that if St-Pierre wins, he's not going to defend the title. I know the title is meaningless. It really is.
Oh, especially at middleweight. At this point, it's the biggest joke.
But it's meaningless because of things like this.
Yeah. I don't care. Honestly, at this point, I don't care that the title is meaningless. I'm fine. It's just a piece of gold. Whatever.
Right.
Just the way UFC is running the company right now, that's fine. But there are fighters that you have to feel bad for. Fighters that are missing out on paydays. Actually, this is not completely my work. I saw a tweet about that, and it's a very good tweet. It's like, you do have to feel bad for fighters like Jacare, who've been in the sport forever and never had a decent payday, missing out on a bigger payday than they normally would have had by fighting for a title and getting a chance to achieve a dream or whatever. You know what I mean? You have to feel bad for those guys getting completely glossed over.
If St-Pierre wins the title, do you think he fights Romero or Jacare?
Dude, Romero, I would be scared for St-Pierre's health if he were to fight Romero. But here's a better question. If St-Pierre wins the title, do you think the UFC, there's any chance in hell they put him on against Romero?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think they're going to get this title shot now because Bisping's not fighting them, and I don't think
it's turning into the Legends division. Remember when everybody wanted to have a Legends division? That's what middleweight is right now.
Rashad Evans is dropping down there.
Right.
It's tough to.
Leon is still around. Oh shit! You saw that ruined him.
Yeah.
Maybe him and Pierre. That would be a fight.
But it's tough to want these titles to. We've buried the titles ourselves and saying how little they mean at this point. But they mean so little because of things like this. It's not our fault that they mean what they mean at this point. You know what I'm saying?
They mean little because the UFC's booked them in a way to mean little.
Right. These titles could mean something, and then we'd get the fights that make sense, number one contenders actually fighting for the title. Why have these rankings if you're not gonna honor them? And the rankings were dumb in the first place. They never should have.
Dude, it's really that simple. You can have it both ways. You can bring St-Pierre back, have him fight Anderson Silva or somebody, and have Bisping fight the number one contender. You're still making a lot of money, and the title is not a complete joke, and the contenders are getting their title shot. It's not that difficult, honestly.
Well, apparently it is.
Oh, well. I'm just really pissed off. St-Pierre, I talked about this last week, just real quick. St-Pierre got out on top. Now he's going to come back and lose to fucking Michael Bisping. That's why the Anderson fight was the best option by far, is because a loss wouldn't hurt anybody. And it's a fight anybody's wanted to see forever, and there's a lot of nostalgia, greatest of all time, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Fuck Georges St-Pierre. When is that fight happening?
There is no official date. My guess is July.
July, Independence Day, right?
Yeah, they always do the big event.
Gets knocked out on my birthday by fucking Michael Bisping. Jesus, dreading this. Like, I know myself.
Can it be? Can it be worse?
The day of the fight,
can it be?
Because,
Can it be worse than July of last year, though?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I love Georges St-Pierre, but he could get amputated in there, and it wouldn't be worse than July last year.
Yeah.
And we're not going to explain that any further.
Nope.
Has nothing to do with MMA.
Nope.
But
people can figure it out for themselves if they've listened to this podcast before.
That's right. That's right.
That's all. Any other MMA news you want to talk about?
No,
is there any other MMA news to talk about?
Is there? I don't know. No.
All right, then. We will be back next week to review UFC 209 and preview. I'm sure there's... Let's see what the UFC card is for next weekend. I'm sure there's something.
Dana White's dream of putting on a weekly event is finally happening. And we're all
next weekend. So next week we'll review UFC 209 and we will preview UFC Fight Night 106 featuring a middleweight showdown between Vitor Belfort and the Gas, Kevin Gastelum.
I would also say, I completely forgot the joke. What is it? This is the dark horse of middleweight fights.
Also on the card is Shogun Rua, Edson Barboza, and Josh Berkman.
Who's Shogun fighting?
Gian Vellante.
Why is Shogun and Vitor on the same card and not fighting each other?
Because they fight in different weight classes, obviously.
Who cares? Put them at a catchweight. Like, does that even matter at this point?
Of course it does. Weight classes matter, dude. Guys just can't move up and down randomly and get title shots based on that.
What's Conor McGregor up to these days?
I like how the obvious joke is Georges St-Pierre, considering we just talked about
but I still went for Conor. That's even funnier. I did think about that.
So, yeah, that's what we're doing next week. And we'll see you right back here on the podcast.
Inside the podcast.